I just did this one, and as I was making it, I realized it could be an amazing bracelet. So now I'm going to show you how to make the bracelet. Just get about a bunch of 6mm beads. I like this antique rustic look, so these are like really nice earth tone red, green, yellow, jasper 6mm beads. And they go really well with this antique brass or vintage bronze. So that's what we're going to use. And then I like to have just one large bead to finish it off. I'm not sure what this is. It might be a tiger's eye. It's very kind of a subtle yellow to some kind of dark grayish green, but looks cool. And this is a 10mm, so let's do this. Roll out about, to be on the safe side, we're going to do about 4 feet. Last time we took 3 feet and we almost ran out right at the end. So this is about a meter and a third of a meter. We're going to put the large bead on first, and then we're going to put the two ends together to find the middle of the wire. Kind of put those like that, and then stretch the big large bead out to the very middle, and then we're going to wrap it like so. And on one end, well, first we're going to crimp it, and then on one end we're going to make a loop. It doesn't have to be a big loop. I would say make it about the size of one of the 6mm beads. Just big enough that you can roll it in there. Just big enough that you can sit one of the 6mm beads on top of it. And then just lock it in. You can always lock it in with a little half twist. Just one little twist, turn it around 180, and boom, it's locked in. There you go. Now we're going to bring these two strands together. And if you want to make it kind of pretty, let's make it kind of pretty. Let's wrap it around. This is going to be fun. We'll wrap the strands around like this. See that? And then we'll come all the way around like this. Wrap it around this loop once. Strands are getting caught on everything. Sorry. All the way around with the strands side by side like that. And then come back here, and that makes like a nice little centerpiece for our bracelet. All right, now we're just going to we're always going to try to keep the strands side by side by pressing with our fingernails like this, and we're going to wrap a little loop, and we're going to roll it to get it tight, because the tighter it looks, the better. And here's a trick. Sometimes you can, these wires are grabbing everything. Sometimes you can, if you want the strands to not be exactly side by side, but to separate a little bit, pull the inner loop, make the inner loop a little bit tighter, like that, but then keep them side by side. It's a little tricky. And then you get kind of an open look like that. Now after I do a loop, I'm going to put a bead on. So and I'm always going to put the bead on the inner side of whichever way the wires are curving. So in this case, it would be this strand. And then with the other wire, I'm going to wrap around the bead and then come around behind it like this. And now I'm going to make another loop, but I'm going to make my loops go alternate ways. So this one went over, the next one's going to go under like this. It's a lot easier if you don't have a camera right up against you to keep banging the wire, but I sacrifice for you guys because you guys are so great and wonderful. And I don't mind if it's a little bit troublesome. It doesn't bother me at all, not a bit. All right, so got that. Now see how my loops are not perfect? That one's that way, that one's that way. Each one's a little different. It makes it look like vines. It makes it look nice when they're imperfect. You just want to kind of space them as evenly as you can, but you're still not going to get it perfect, and that's fine. Now in this case, the curve is going this way, so I'd say this wire is the under one. So I'm going to put and I'm alternating. These beads are kind of a red, yellow, and green, even though they're very muted earth tones. So I'm just alternating the red, yellow, and green. But you could use all the same color. You could do silver with like a pretty pink or purple. There's no limit to how. Just remember, this strand is the one holding it, so the other strand wraps around it. And I'm trying to get a little closer. So now the other strand wraps around and behind it like that. And boom. Now we just went under, and those are not staying together. Stay together, guys. We just went under. Now we're going to go over. There we go. And see that? These are kind of tighter. These are starting to spread out a little more, so we're going to roll them in tighter. Get them rolled closer. And I'm going to pull this one tighter to get that inner loop a little smaller, because I like how they stagger and separate a little bit and then come back together. That's a little big right there. Let's pinch that down, get that a little tighter. You can mess with it as you go. Like, just don't overthink it and don't judge yourself. That's all that matters. But other than that, you can, totally mess with it. You can adjust it and play with it. Okay, now I have, including the large bead, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm about approaching the size of a very small wrist. So I'm going to end it, because if you know the size of the person you're making it for, or if it's for you, then you can make it right to their wrist. But if you are making it for someone you don't know exactly what size their wrist is, it's good to make the smallest size wrist, which is about 5 inches, and then add a lobster clasp and a bunch of jump rings, or a few links of chain on the end, because that way you can make it adjustable to any wrist. And then, from 5 inches, have it go all the way up to about 9. Between 5 and 9 is you cover almost everybody's wrist. So what we're going to do in the end here is, you could just make a loop and end it, or you could also have your, you can make a loop, end it, have your lobster clasp, have a link of chain, and you're good. But I'm going to show you how you can actually make a clasp with this wire. So what you want to do is, I think I'm going to do one more loop here. This will make it a little longer than 5 inches, so make it about a 6-inch bracelet. So teeny tiny wrists. This is not going to fit you snugly, but just to finish it for the video, we've got our last loop in there. Come on, camera, focus. Camera doesn't like it. There we go. All right, now we're going to take one of these and make a really, really, really long loop like this. And about 1 inch long, or 2 centimeters. And then we're going to put these together like this and wrap these strands. A little awkward when you first start, but just get them. It wants to twist on you. Just get these strands kind of wrapped together like this. And see how I'm just kind of wrapping them in there like that, and kind of wrap them up. Let's make this a little bit better of a, loop. It's a really, there we go. Let me just do that so you guys can see. There we go. Okay, just reforming this a little because that one was a little wonky. We're going to pinch this tight on the end, trying to make that straight. Okay. Now we're going to wrap these guys one more time, and then we're going to tuck them right in there. So carefully pull them out a little bit on a diagonal, carefully cut them. And tuck the sharp ends right into that little space you made in the wrapping. So just pinch them until you get them down. See that, how they're tucked in right there? Now I can still feel a tiny bit of a scratch, so I'm going to tuck them down deeper. I'm going to pinch them down like this to get them deep in that little coil I just made. And if that's tricky, then I'll show you how to do it the other way. But this guy right here, now we're going to straighten him out a little more, but make him nice and long. And it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. See, mine is all wonky in all different ways. All right, now we're going to bend him up a little bit, and then we're going to hook him around like this. They're pliers. Just bend him around like that. Now this will take a little bit playing with the first couple times you do it to try to get your hook, to hook right. But what we're going to do now is bend it into the shape of a bracelet. Actually, this is pretty good for a really small wrist. I did better than I realized. You'd be surprised how dainty some people's wrists are. I mean, you don't realize till you make the bracelet. Some people have little teeny bird wrists. So now what we're doing is, there we go. Camera focus, and it should hook right in there like that. Ta-da! And then after you get it hooked, you want to adjust it so it lays flat. And then, so just so it can be brought in and out. But see, that's even a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to bend it up a little bit because I don't want it too difficult. I don't want it to pop off while they're wearing it, but I also don't want it to be hard to get on and off. So that's a little tricky. And you can also tell them if they really want to stay on, they could pinch it like this after they get it on. You have to hurt your fingers a little bit. See the indentation I made on my finger? But it doesn't hurt. It just, you know, you got to pinch it pretty tight. But that will be nice for a little dainty wrist. And then even with this, if I want, I can add a link of chain and a lobster clasp. Clasp the lobster clasp there and make it, actually one lobster clasp on one side, link a chain on the other. And then you can clasp it as tight or loose as you want, depending on where you clasp the lobster clasp. But there we have it. This is a very delicate, cute bracelet. And then just take your time playing with this to make it a nice oval shape. You don't, and sometimes you can mess with some of the loops will come out from the way you had them. You can just mess with them and, you know, just bend them back if they're sticking out on a weird diagonal. That's actually good to go back and bend each one. So I'll go across and bend all of them on one side to get them to just lay flatter in the shape of an oval. And then I'll go back and bend the ones on the other side backwards the opposite way. Careful, like gently so you don't scratch them. But that locks everything in better too. All right.